I think for me, the main challenge was doubling down on quant coming from my first attempt. And in simple terms, I think that from a conceptual point of view, um, everything is out there. You can learn by yourself, but to get into a high score, there's some things that the test asks you and that you need to understand very consciously. Yeah, I think it was fundamental to really understand how you are performing, and it's the best way to take gradual steps towards building the foundational skills to be able to face a mock and eventually face the final exam. The support system part is very important because you can get stuck into a mental loop and studying yourself for hours.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for coming and congratulations on your massive improvement to a GMAT 730 with an amazing V41 and Q48.
Thank you so much, Rita.
Now, you've had quite the GMAT journey with its fair share of ups and downs, which we'll get into a little bit later. But looking back at this entire journey, what really sticks out to you as the biggest challenge you had to overcome?
I think for me, the main challenge was doubling down on quant coming from my first attempt, and the key reason why I signed up for e-GMAT, and also managing time pressure and timing were the critical aspects that prevented me from excelling, let's say, on my first test, and that really where I got the most help from the platform. Yeah.
Wonderful. So before we dig into what you just said and how you really executed on those on turning those mistakes into really points of strength, can you tell the audience and myself a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yes, sure. My name is Daniel. I come from a very small island in the Mediterranean Sea in Spain. I have a computer engineering major, and formerly I was working at Microsoft. What I'm wearing today, that is very cloudy today here in Madrid. We're getting into autumn and time for a jacket.
We'll make sure to dust off our coats. But I mean, it's a good thing that you mentioned, these changing seasons and the changes you have to bring into your own life. Because I know that as we moved from that 690 to that 730, a lot of your process of improvement was also a process of change, right? So when you look at the two scores, what really stood out to you as the missing piece that you got in your journey to 730 that was missing in your original journey to 690?
Yeah, I think that some of the pieces were there, but I was missing something. And I understood that e-GMAT was the one that could help me get it. And in simple terms, I think that from a conceptual point of view, everything is out there. You can learn by yourself, but to get into a high score, there's some things that the test asks you and that you need to understand very consciously. And some of those things are related to what you call process skills. And I believe that those were the key missing pieces that I needed in order to succeed and perform better. Overall, what I learned through my journey at e-GMAT was the importance of really nailing down the process skills and the specific aspects of the test that you really need to know in order to focus on the questions at hand very precisely.
Understood. So for our viewers out there who may not be as familiar with what process skills are, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Well, in comparison to the concept skills, which are the basic things you should know, rules or formulas or whatever, the process skills teach you exactly how to approach the question in terms of how you can combine different concept skills in order to answer a question, how to visualize or consider all different cases, or really dealing with constraints. There are some general purpose process skills that you need to be very aware of that may or may not come natural to you. In my case, they didn't come natural, so being made aware of those skills and those things to check for were very important. And then as you build on that muscle, it's let's say exponential. You as you get, and we will talk about that, as you get into the exposure of building upon those kind of process skills, you become better and better.
Understood. So those process skills were essentially extremely vital in taking the concepts that you knew. And like you mentioned, those concepts are things that you can always learn, but applying those concepts on difficult questions, being able to connect different concepts together, that's where the process skills really came into play for you.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Absolutely. So you worked on those process skills across Quant, especially on topics where you might not have been as confident initially, things like algebra and geometry. And what we really did at that point was make sure that your individual subsections were all up to par, right? They were all at the targetability we were aiming for. But the next step was taking all these individual soldiers and making sure that they could function together. And that's where we moved into the next phase of your learning, which was really something called the test readiness phase, which is where we took mixed quizzes and really built on various skill sets. So how did the test readiness phase really help in your prep? And why do you think it is a vital part of prep as a whole?
Yeah, I think it was fundamental to really understand how you are performing, and it's the best way to take gradual steps towards building the foundational skills to be able to face a mock and eventually face the final exam. And also having the awareness of how you are performing. You mentioned the subsections, and that's something that I really didn't know much about. And it became apparent to me once I signed up for e-GMAT and I took the first mock, where you could see where you were struggling. Something that I couldn't have done before, because I took my first attempt was on the GMAT online, so I didn't have an ESR. And so having visibility on what kinds of questions you are missing, and what are the skills that you need to brush up on, is something that only the quizzes can give you, and especially a platform like Scholaranium with the AI guided insights and the sectional information that gives you really good pieces of information of where you should target your study, versus just opening a book and opening it by a random page and start answering questions. I think that was a fundamental piece of the prep, and especially bridging the gap towards that 700 score.
Wonderful, right? And so you're saying that, when you actually look at aiming for those really high scores, you have to get into the nitty-gritties of how you're preparing, the mistakes you're making, the progress that you're making. You have to track those down by numbers, and you can't just leave it up to random practice and hope that you'll get to the score that you want, right?
Yes, definitely. And in fact, I had studied for quite some time, and I never had an error log, for example. And I didn't even notice how important it was to keep track of everything, and frequently reviewing those, and also noting down why you thought you had the right question, and what went wrong, and what learnings you could distill. So that was also a fundamental aspect that e-GMAT brought me, or actually you brought me into awareness. That and the quizzes, I think that were instrumental into bridging the gap. Yeah.
Wonderful. So talking a little bit about myself, I played the role of a mentor in your journey. We kind of connected at the beginning of your e-GMAT journey, and I was there to help you make the right steps along. How do you think that having a mentor added a level of insight, if it did, throughout your entire prep?
Yes, I think it was vital. I cannot thank you enough, and I've done many times, because when I got my first test, I was kind of lost. I thought I had given everything, so and I didn't know where to go from there, right? Other than just going again into a loop of studying mindlessly in a way. So I think that the support and the insights and the advice that you gave were really critical. That, coupled with the technology that you guys have, is the perfect combination. It's not an either or, but actually a combination of the two that really brings the best results for sure. So it was very great. Also personally, I learned a lot of things as we went through the journey, and I can't thank you enough.
It was and always will be my sincerest pleasure to have been a part of your journey. I knew from day one that you could get to where you needed to be, and I'm so happy to see you here at the end of the line, right? So it was my personal pleasure to be here as well. But I know that throughout this, I was one source of support, but I know you also had another very, very critical support as well through your family, through your loved ones, right? And you mentioned to me that having that support system was critical. Can we talk a little bit more about why having a support system is an important part of the GMAT journey, and it's why something that everyone who does go on this journey should create?
Yes, I think the support system part is very important because you can get stuck into a mental loop and studying yourself for hours, weeks, months. So either having support in the form of a study buddy that is there with you, a mentor, but also, especially for myself, having someone that is somewhat connected because it's living through the process with you, but it's not really into the GMAT process, like my wife. And having someone from your family, as it was my case with my wife, is very important. First, to have their support as well, and seeing it as a time commitment, but also investment in to improve in the future the quality of life or whatever for both of you, because it takes a lot of time and you sacrifice. It has an opportunity cost, and then once that you've accepted with your support partner that this is the way to go, then it's critical to keep you honest and keep you focused on the process and actually staying on the path. So for me personally, I think it was very important to have that kind of external support.
Wonderful. And I'm so glad that you had such a valuable support system throughout as well. It clearly had such an important impact on your journey, right? And another thing is that on this journey, like I mentioned initially, it wasn't the straightest path. We did have our initial bumps. And one of those was actually the first time with e-GMAT that you sat down to write the test itself. Can you tell us what happened that time?
Yes. I had everything. I felt like I was ready to go, and with such a high score on the mocks that I started with the test. The check-in didn't work. It was 20 minutes past, and they connected me to the room. And then I remember very vividly that the audio was not coming in, and we after 30 minutes trying, we had to cancel the test. So it was a very frustrating and tense situation for me, and very dissatisfied also because of all the time and investment that you've put going through to that particular day, right? I remember it was a Friday, and then I had all the weekend to think about that and what could have been. But I soon realized I needed to change that mindset and that attitude. It also helped that I was going on holiday on the Monday after that, so it really was a cutoff for me. But it also made me think, I've invested so much time. Now I'm going for 2 weeks. Should I really quit or not quit? And that's what I pondered during the days I was on holiday, so to say. And I quickly realized that I had to persevere, and we can talk more about that.
And I think we should, right? Because it would have been very natural at that point to want to put a full stop in your preparation because, like you mentioned, everything was going right? And then something comes completely out of the left field and bowls you over. And this was your second attempt, right? You'd already put in a good couple months of effort. So it's natural that there were those concerns, there were those doubts at that point. But what did make you persevere, actually? What convinced you to go back for another try?
Yeah, it was compounded because I had switched job, and the work environment was getting even more intense after this first attempt. But it made me realize that I had put so much time investment, so there was kind of a sunk cost thinking, if you will. But also the second aspect was that I really wanted to see that through. Even if I didn't have a game plan, I just wanted to be done with it and succeed. And again, having the right external support system was key in making that decision, because I could have very quickly dropped out of it and that's it. But just staying true to my principles that I committed to doing something, no matter what happened outside the work hours or whatever. I think that's what pushed me into really getting back on the flow and just going for what I should have gone in the beginning, which wasn't that hard after all.
Absolutely right. And now we sit here, thanks to all that perseverance, thanks to all that hard work, with your amazing, amazing 730 score, right? And I'm so happy that we are sitting here with that trophy next to you. So shout out to your external support system for helping you get to this place, right?
Definitely.
That's really great. So you've had a roller coaster of a journey, and you've had a whole lot of learnings. Now, with all that wisdom under your belt, if you had to sit down and give someone else who's going to go write the GMAT any one piece of advice, what do you really think it would be?
I think that there's an important mental aspect to the test that, especially for me, because I had finished studying quite some time ago, 7 or 8 years. Mentally, it requires you to get back on a flow of work and dedication and concepts that is a big time commitment, and you need to have the mental steps to ensure that you can sustain through the process, and that's easy to do and has nothing to do with the actual test in and of itself. And it can be a test of your ability to persevere again, and it teaches you things. You can do that through many other things, but maybe the GMAT is something that works for you to build that kind of stamina. And the second one is just having the right tools. There's so much there, and there's ways of doing this optimally or suboptimally, like in everything. And I think that the choice I made with signing up for e-GMAT is was the most efficient one, and in terms of accelerating my learning and getting to the test phase fastest, because at the end of the day, it's just a test, and the sooner you're done with it, the better. Although you learn a lot of interesting things, at least for me, that are applicable for your life, for sure.
Absolutely true. Two wonderful pieces of advice. And I think this is a great time for us to stop things, right? But I hope that everyone who is listening to that takes things away. And I think one of the most important things you just said right now, and I hope that people always remember, is that it is a test, right? That means that's all it is. Stay calm, stay cool, trust yourself, and trust in the prep that you've given, right? So thank you once again, Daniel, so much for coming. It was an absolute pleasure to have you, and it was an absolute pleasure to be your mentor throughout this entire journey, right? So thanks again. All the very best. Happy learning, and take care.
Likewise, my pleasure. All the best.